সবাইকে নমস্কার জানাই। আজকে এশিয়াটিক সোসাইটির পক্ষ থেকে আজকের অনুষ্ঠানে সবাইকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি। আজকে আমরা এখানে সমবেত হয়েছি রাজা রাজেন্দ্রলাল মিত্র মেমোরিয়াল লেকচার 2022। সেটি আজকে এখানে উপস্থিত আছেন অধ্যাপক বশিষ্ঠ নারায়ণ ঝা, যিনি আজকে যে বিষয়টা নিয়ে বলবেন আমি একবার বলে দিই। ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ অ্যান্ড রিয়ালিটি, রিফ্লেকশনস অফ জয়ন্ত ভট্ট, দ্য 9th century কাশ্মীরি লজিশিয়ান। আজকে আমাদের এই রাজেন্দ্রলাল মিত্র লেকচারের আগে আজকের এই যে তার নামাঙ্কিত যে হল, এখানে তার মূর্তি আছে রাজা রাজেন্দ্রলাল মিত্র। আর আমাদের বলতে খুব ভালো লাগছে যে রাজা রাজেন্দ্রলাল মিত্রের পরিবার থেকে এখানে উপস্থিত আছেন দৈপায়ন মিত্র আর তার কন্যা। তো আমি শ্রী দৈপায়ন মিত্রকে অনুরোধ করব রাজেন্দ্রলাল মিত্রের মূর্তিতে মাল্যদান করার জন্য। উপস্থিত আছেন এশিয়াটিক সোসাইটির সভাপতি অধ্যাপক স্বপন কুমার প্রামাণিক মহাশয়। তাকে অনুরোধ করব এই মূর্তিতে, রাজা রাজেন্দ্রলাল মিত্রের মূর্তিতে মাল্যদান করার জন্য। এখানে উপস্থিত আছেন এশিয়াটিক সোসাইটির সাধারণ সম্পাদক মশাই। তাকে অনুরোধ করছি যে এখানে পুষ্পস্তবক দেওয়ার জন্য। উপস্থিত আছেন অধ্যাপক N Jha, স্যার প্লিজ। আর যারা যারা এখানে মাননীয় সম্মানিত অতিথিরা এসেছেন সবার জন্য এই অনুরোধ রইল পুষ্প দেওয়ার জন্য রাজেন্দ্রলাল মিত্রের মূর্তিতে। আমাদের এশিয়াটিক সোসাইটির প্রেসিডেন্ট মহাশয়, সাধারণ সম্পাদক মহাশয়, এখানে উপস্থিত আছেন এশিয়াটিক সোসাইটির কোষাধ্যক্ষ মহাশয়। তাদের আসন গ্রহণ করার জন্য অনুরোধ করছি স্বাগত ভাষণ দেওয়ার জন্য।
Good afternoon, everybody. Respected President of the Asiatic Society, Professor Swapon Kumar Pramanik, our very distinguished and respected Professor and Speaker of the day, Professor Bashishth Narayan Jha, my colleague in the Council, Dr. Sujit Kumar Das, who is the Treasurer of the Asiatic Society. In the audience, we have our Vice Presidents, Professor Vasudev Burman and Professor Subhash Ranjan Chakraborty. We have our other council members, past and present both, and distinguished audience friends. When we take the name of Dr. Raja Rajendralal Mitra, we feel automatically inclined to enjoy a kind of thrill, in the sense that he is the first Indian President of the Asiatic Society, as you know, which was formed in 1794. And imagine, he became the President in 1885, after 101 years. That was the situation during the colonial period. But nevertheless, Dr. Raja Rajendra Mitra carved out a special niche in the whole academic atlas, not only of this country, to say it in a greater sense of the term, and throughout the whole of the world. He was basically known as Indologist, but he traversed his ways in many other areas of introspection, including photography. That was Dr. Raja Rajendra Mitra. And we have observed his bicentenary very recently. We have observed his 203rd birth anniversary in this very hall. And in our publications also, we have made a special emphasis to bring out his Vividarth Sangraha, very recently going to be published, and other publications also. And this very building, which is new to the Asiatic Society, has been named as Dr. Rajendra Lal Mitra Bhavan. In a sense, that was our very, very minimum tribute that we could think of Dr. Mitra. But about his other areas, this is not the occasion for me to delve into the details of that. And since we have a special endowment lecture that we have introduced since 2017, and this is going to be the 6th endowment lecture to be delivered by Professor Jha today. And it began with the late former President of India, Sri Prof. Mukherjee. He delivered the first lecture, followed by K.K. Paddaya and many others. So this is the occasion, and I welcome you all, including the speaker, and hope you will enjoy this afternoon and stay with us. Thank you very much. Let me, for a minute, President, let us felicitate Professor Jha. And I read out the citation. The Asiatic Society is pleased to award Raja Rajendra Lal Mitra Memorial Lectureship for the year 2022 to Professor N Jha for his notable contribution in the field of Indological studies. And Professor Jha is not unfamiliar face to many of us. He is or he was very intimately connected with the academic activities of the Asiatic Society, which will renew now after a long interregnum. Thank you.
I invite Professor Jha for the deliverance.
Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande paramanandam ajnanatimrandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunimilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I am grateful to the society, the President of the Society, Honorable Secretary, esteemed Treasurer, and the learned gathering. I am thankful for having done this honor to me, to invite me to share something in memory of a great not only soul but a scholar. I also told when I was in college, Raiganj College, that he was the first, Rabindranath Mitra was the first Indian who started researching on India in English. That was told by Professor Sushil Chandra Kashnavishmahi. So it's an honor. So thank you all for having done this honor to me. Friends, the topic that I have chosen to reflect is a summary of reflections done by a great logician of 9th century AD of Kashmir. And many of you may be surprised that he happens to be he has said that his forefathers hailed from Gaura Desha. The logician is Jayanta Bhatta. His magnum opus, the work, is Nyaya. It's an encyclopedia of Indian philosophy. He did not have a good relationship with the king, and so he was put in exile. He has written, and just to enjoy the time, I am writing this, he says, that I am writing this book. I will give you the reference. So I thought that the context, I will tell you everything, that in the context that whether Shabda can be a pramana. That is the context, bigger context. And then the whole discussion begins, and it comes to a point where a very closer reflections were necessary, and that portion only I am going to summarize and present before you. There are 4 views on language and reality. 1, reality or truth is beyond mind and language. This is one view. Avam manaso gochara. So reality is beyond mind, beyond language. Language cannot catch the reality. Another view on language is, the language is a liar. It doesn't tell the truth. A third view is, and that is of the logicians, that language does refer to reality. It does tell the truth. But, okay, we'll see everything. A fourth view is that of the 6th century language philosopher Bhartrihari in Vakyabodhiya. He held a view that Shabda Brahman, the language principle as it is translated normally, the ultimate reality according to Bhartrihari is that Shabda Brahman itself manifests in the form of plurality of this universe. These views are being debated for thousands of years in our intellectual, philosophical and spiritual traditions. While Shankaracharya, I'm sorry, while Shankara and Bodhra, Dharmakirti particularly, present the Nirguna Brahman and Swalakshana respectively, which are beyond language as the only reality. The Naiyayikas, on the other hand, present the entire world of plurality as reality, the world of reference, padartha. In other words, while the idealists, because Shankaracharya and Buddhists, idealists, while the idealists had hold the view that reality is beyond reach of language, the realists believe, Naiyayikas, that language can refer to reality. Thank you. Therefore, in today's talk, I want to present a summary of the deep reflections on this issue by Jayanta Bhatta, a very great logician of Kashmir during the rule of Shankara Varman. It is 883 to 902. And want to reflect why the idealists are not left with no other option but to deny any relationship between reality and language. It is interesting to note that Jayanta Bhatta's great-grandfather hailed from Gaura Desha and Bengal and settled in Kashmir. Now imagine in which year, in which century, a person, a logician from here, going to get settled in Kashmir. How he got it, he is telling. He says his grandfather performed the Vedic sacrifice called Sangrahani. And soon after that, he was offered a village by the king of Kashmir. He mentions the village as Gaura Mula. The name of the village was given Gaura Mula, whose source is Bengal. So that history is preserved here. Tathahi asmat pitamaha eva grama kamaha sangrahanim kritavan sa ishti samapti samanantarameva Gauramulakam Gramam Avapa. This is in the 4th Annika. Naimanjali is a very, very big text. 12 adhyayas, 12 Annikas it is called. Indeed, it's a cyclopedia. Up till 9th century, whatever reflections were done on various issues in philosophy have been taken note of by him. Because he had no other work. He was put in a cave and he has been reflecting and writing. Another interesting fact worth mentioning is Jayanta Bhatta wrote his magnum opus called Nyayamanjari while he was put into a cave by the king Shankara Varman. He writes, Ragya tu gahvaresmin ashabdake, must be a jungle, must be very, where even sound cannot reach. Ashabdake bandhane vinihitosmi, I have been kept in that cave. Grantha rachana vinodat, ihahi maya vatsara gamita. So it must have taken several years perhaps, because the volume of the book is like that. And he says that these years I have spent in joy by writing this book in the cave. Coming to the context, the opponent begins this. Till that, what has happened is argument is whether language can be incorporated in the process of knowing called inference. Whether it is necessary to posit language as an independent source of knowing, or it could be incorporated in the process of knowing called anuman, inference. This is the bigger context. And in that context he says, okay, well, the discussion whether pramana is different from anumana pramana, shabda pramana is different from anumana pramana, can follow only after it is established that shabda is pramana. Is there. So first you prove that shabda is pramana, then we will discuss whether shabda can be included in anumana or not. And here this issue begins. But according to us, the opponent says, the opponents are idealists. Shabda is not valid source of knowledge. Nanu siddhe pramanatve bheda parikshanam kriyate natu shabdasya pramanyam avakalpate. That is the challenge that is putting before Jayanta. You have defined, he continues, he says, you have defined Shabda Pramana as that which causes knowledge of its meaning. But the words do not even touch meaning. Since language is based on construction, that is the point. So language cannot work without mental construction. And the moment it is, you are allowing mind to construct a world and refer to it reality, it loses. That is the point that he is trying to make. Artha pratiti janakam pramanam iti varanitam vikalpamatra moolatvat narthe shabda sprashatyami. So the artha, the meaning, does not touch language. Moreover, what can be decided as the meaning of a word? Tell us. Neither a universal, jati, nor a particular, vyakti, nor a particular qualified by universal. None of them can be the meaning of a word. Artho nirupyamanascha kova shabdasya sakyate vaktum na jati na vyakti na tadvan. Even the relation, let us think of what kind of relation language has with reality. Even the relation between a word and its meaning can be said to be either eternal. You talk of eternal, Veda is eternal, that eternal, this is eternal. So there is a relationship, as it were, which is eternal between language and what language refers to. Granting there is some such relationship between them, how can that be known? Now let us know how relation will be known. With reference to a word referring to an abstract meaning. Concrete thing, okay, somehow you can point out. But let us say daya, maya, sukha, dukkha, all these which have no form. How can you establish a relationship between language and that atindriya artha? Sambandhopyasya narthena inityosthati samayothava shakya. Sannapi, granting, bodhum arthe katamam idandriye, atindriya arthe, that relationship, how can that be known? These are the challenges being forwarded by the idealist before the realist. One cannot decide. Now let us say the sentence meaning. So at the word level, there is no relationship with the meaning. Then it can be directly with sentence level? No. One cannot decide the sentence meaning either. What is sentence meaning, then you decide, which is of the nature of inducement. Now I must tell you that the discussion is with regard to the context is of the Veda. So Vedas are interpreted from two angles. From the angle of a karma kanda, so inducement, vidhi, do and don'ts, these are the only two. So one set of scholars are trying to interpret this literature as do's and don'ts. And others, they say, no, this is of no use. It has to be done by another parameter. So he says, what could be the means to know the sentence meaning? No, sorry, I did not cite the passage. Vakyarthopi na nirnetum paryate paramarthika. So you cannot show me logically what is the meaning of a sentence. If it had been a meaning of a sentence, then it can be either in the form of niyoga, do, or bhavana, inducement, or some breakable relationship between meanings. None can be presented as word meaning, sentence meaning. What could be the means to know the sentence meaning? And moreover, how are you going to know sentence meaning? Is it the word meaning? Who is going to help you? Is word meaning is going to help you to know the sentence meaning? Is it the word meaning or the words or the sentence having related meanings or sporter? Now, Bhartrihari is already in the scene. In the 5th century, 6th century, already Bhartrihari has emerged. So he has a theory of sporter. Shabda Brahma, I told you, that kind of idea. It is not clear. Tat pratittabhyapayascha kim padartha padani va vakyam va vyaktya shaktarthe spoto va iti na lakshate. You cannot, it is not clear. Granting that language generates such understanding, we call it tushyatu durjana nyaya. So be pleased, let me accept for the time being that what you say, there is some relationship. Granting that language generates such understanding of connected meanings, it cannot be properly decided what the cause of the dependability of such understanding is. Siddhayam pitat buddho tasya dharima karanam nityatvam aptottatvam va na samyak avatisthate. So if you ask the Vedantin philosopher, the Upanishad philosophers, then they reject the Karmakanda interpretations, and the Karmakandas reject the interpretation of the Vedantins, because for Vedantis it is the Siddha, that is the Brahma, which is already established, that is the meaning of the Veda. So you are all fighting between yourself. So how do you decide that what is the meaning of a sentence? Look at the Vedic texts. Even to those who accept the words to be eternal, those who accept that the Shabda is Nitya, I ask. It is all by idealists. These questions are being put by idealists. Is the arrangement of Vedic words created by the speaker, or is it also eternal? Okay, words are eternal. Now words are to be arranged to make a sentence. Is the arrangement also eternal? If they say that arrangements are created, it doesn't seem to be logical, so you have to say no, arrangements can be non-eternal, made by man. Question arises then, created by whom? Who has created this arrangement? Very difficult to know, isn't it? Pade nityepi vaidikyo rachana kartripurvaka nityava kritakatvepi krita kena iti durgama. Very difficult to know. You say there is a speaker of the Vedas called God. Now he is directly attacking Nayayikas. The Nayayikas accept Veda to be an utterance of all-knowing God. Now he is telling, you say there is a speaker of the Vedas called God, And he has definite knowledge, because if he also has got severing knowledge, then it cannot be called a God. So he has a definite knowledge, dependable, so he is an Apta. So you say that he has a definite knowledge. He is one, Ishvara is one, God is one. He is all-knowing, Sarvagya. He is compassionate, Dayavan. But it cannot be known for certain, isn't it? Do you know? Tell me, for certain, is it something like this? Karta asticha, such a nirdvandva, such a ekaha, such a sarvabhit, sarvagya, such a karunika, compassionate. Ko veti pratibhattum saknoti. Who is going to know this? Moreover, the Vedic sentences are full of contradictions. Now how to establish the Vedic sentences are authoritative, dependable. They are full of contradictions. Now, if the sentences, some of them are contradictory, then out of this, which one is created by God? How will you decide? You cannot assign that these contradictory sentences are created by your Sarvavit, Sarvagyan. So moreover, the Vedic sentences are full of contradictions. Which ones are uttered by God and which ones are not? We do not know, neither you know. Paraspara viruddhascha santi bhuyamsha agamaha. Tesham kasya ishvara karta, kasya na, iti na bhavanamahe. We don't know. There are several defects in the Vedas. Now, by the way, if you look at the Gautama Nyaya Sutra, the original text, these points to declare that the Vedic sentences are not dependable, these arguments are very old arguments that is repeating, Purva is repeating at this time. So it is before 1st century BC or so. These ideas were already floating. So there are several defects in the Vedas, such as contradictions, repetitions, that is tautology, as you call it, absence of result claimed, and also opposite of result. So the historical reference that he has given of his Gaura Mulaka Grama, it occurs in this context. Because the Veda, the opponent asks that Veda claims that this result you will get if you perform this sacrifice. But the sacrificer performs, does not get the result. And then he says, but my father, you see, my great-great-great-grandfather had performed this sacrifice, and immediately he was invited and offered a village in Kashmir. That is the concept. The Vedas have injunctive sentences and narrative sentences. Again, let us classify all the sentences of the Veda into two clubs. One are injunctions and others are narrative sentences, either in praise of injunction or in decrying injunctions. So Vedas have injunctive sentences and narrative sentences. How to construe the narrative sentences which express mutually conflicting meanings? How to construe the mantras and the proper names? Kidrishascharthavadanam viruddharthabhidayanam mantranam deyadi padanam cha samanvaya. How are you going to do all this? These are practical problems a scholar faces. You have to answer. People have a doubt because the Vedas sometimes refer to an accomplished meaning or sometimes a meaning to be accomplished. This is the Vedantins and the Karmakandis. Now, the doubt is whether Vedas are authoritative with regard to accomplished meanings. So now, is it then we have to understand that only that part of the Veda is dependable, authoritative, which support do's and don'ts? Or is it that which support the one Siddha Padartha called Brahman? So, now the doubt is whether Vedas are authoritative with regard to accomplished meanings, Brahman, or a meaning to be accomplished, do's and don'ts. याग क्रिया सिद्ध कार्योपदेशाच्च वेदे संशयरते जनाः किमस्य कार्ये प्रामाण्यम सिद्ध्यर्थे वा उभयत्र वा. That is why I say, the idealists present, that the authority of the Veda is on uneven road. Still, in spite of my pointing out so many defects, and still if you want to stick to your position that the Vedas are dependable, authoritative, pramana, Shabdeja pramana, well, it is up to you. Still, if you want to accept them as authoritative, you are free to do so as me. But then I will interpret that you want to do this because you want to make them as a means of livelihood. It's a direct, you see, this kind of discourse. Do you find nowadays? It's a 9th century discourse. You are free to do so as means of livelihood. Or maybe if you don't, no, I have enough to eat, live. Why should I make Veda as the means of livelihood? Oh, then perhaps you have a blind faith. So, or maybe because of blind faith you are maintaining that the Vedas are authoritative. Tena Veda pramanatvam vishame prativartate. जीविका उपाय जीविकोपाय बुद्ध्या वा और श्रद्धया वा अभ्युपेयता. That's all. After listening to all these charges, now Jayanta raises his hands and says, breathe normal, don't get excited. We will be addressing all these issues and will remove all your doubts. The dependability, the reliability of the Vedas is on firm ground, my boy. Atra avidhiyate sarva eve ete devshaha yatha kramam pariharishyante iti alam samasvase. Breathe normal. The language is so beautiful. If you want to learn Sanskrit, you should start with diamond. Telling that, all right, we will see later whether Vedas can be established as authoritative document or not. First of all, let me know how will you refute our position that language has no relationship whatsoever with its referent. Language does not generate knowledge of external reference because it is observed that language generates knowledge of things with the help of mental constructions. For instance, there can be a sentence, look, there exists on the tip of the finger hundreds and hundreds of elephants. The sentence, someone has uttered a letter like this. What does it refer to? It's a sentence, it's language, part of language, grammatically correct, everything is fine. What does it refer to? It is something like that. The Veda is also like that. Nanu artha asanspartitvam eva tavat katham parigriyate. नहीं बाह्ये अर्थे शब्दाः प्रमितिम् आदधाति ते हि दुर्लभ वस्तु संपर्क विकल्प मात्र अधीन जन्मानः स्वमहिमानम् अनुवर्तमानः तिरस्कृत बाह्यार्थ समन्वयान् विकल्प प्रायान् प्रत्ययान् उत्पादयन्तो दृश्यन्ते अंगुल्यग्रे हस्ति यूथ शतम् आस्ते. See, hundreds of elephants are sitting on the top of my finger. So, our conclusion is, the ideal is telling, Shabdanam artha asparshatvam. Language has nothing to do with meaning. Now, the Siddhantin, the Jayanta now takes up. My friend, it's an error. When someone will be framing a sentence like this, and he'll be demonstrating that, okay, it doesn't tell me anything outside, why not take it as an error? It's an error. When you see something, don't you err? So, Pratyaksha is a pramana or not? Or are you going to say that Pratyaksha also doesn't have any relationship with the thing that it sees? So, it's an error. Even Pratyaksha produces sometimes a cognition of a non-existent objects like a net of air. Now, in a very strong sun, you move, let's say in a desert, and you see, and after that you find a tree with a shade, and you stand there, and you look, and then it appears that a net of air is in before your eyes. So, net of air, Pratyaksha has produced. Are there net of air outside your eyes? How are you saying? So, don't you say that it's an error? Like a net of air, when eyes are not in contact with air, will you say that Pratyaksha has no relationship with its objects? The idealist says, no. That happens when the observer is suffering from some eyes ailment, because of some defect in the eyes that he is seeing like this. This is not true with Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha Pramana does not do this. Then Jayanta says, here too, in the case of Shabda Pramana, it is difficult for the speaker of language that the language does not match what language denotes. Again, idealist asks, it is not true. Even a person having defect in articulation, boba, let us say, or some defect in articulating language, will have the same understanding from an absurd sentence. The same sentence will generate the same kind of absurd meaning to anybody. At the same time, a normal person also having a defect will have the same understanding from the same. So we ask a person who is unable to speak or a person who speaks, Angulagre Hastiyutha Sudram Aste, this sentence will be the same thing, producing no matching with the fact to a person who has a good articulation and no articulation. Thus, the fault lies with the language and not with the speaker of the language. This kind of idea that you say. But he said, no. Look, there are hundreds of elements on the tip of the finger. Thus, the fault lies with the language and not with the speaker of the language. Vikalpa yonaya, this is their siddhanta, that vikalpa yonaya shabdaha, vikalpaha shabda yonaya, esham anunya sambandhe, narthe shabda sprisatyami. This is the conclusion that the language does not touch reality. Moreover, in the case of Pratyaksha, the sense organ corrects mistakes. Now, the idealist is pointing out that when somebody commits mistake with a sense organ, you see something wrong, a rope as snake or a conch shell as silver. This is a kind of an error. So, in the case of Pratyaksha, but it gets corrected. Pratyaksha corrects it when it is pointed out that no, this is not a snake, this is just a rope. Or when it is no, this is not a Shukti, this is not Rajata. So Pratyaksha corrects, but language does not do anything. Moreover, in the case of Pratyaksha, the sense organ corrects the mistake. This is the silver. When the eyes see the conch shell as conch shell, but even if one utters 100 times the sentence, look, there exist hundreds of elements on the tip of the finger, does not stop producing absurd understanding. So you cannot compare language with perception. So this is a wrong comparison. This simply implies that it is the nature of language which is based on mental construction that it cannot touch facts. Now takes up. Had it been the case that no, I say that you are very clever, that you are only taking the constructed, erroneous sentences, for example. What about those sentences which match the fact? That also, those sentences are to also explain why in one case the sentence matches the reality and why in another case it does not match the reality. That discussion is necessary. So had it been the case that no sentence matches the fact, then I would have understood what you say. It would have been true what you say. But we find that a sentence of a reliable person, such as there are fruits on the bank of a, so someone is hungry and approaches somebody, then he says, okay, on the bank of the river there are trees of fruits and you go and have it, and he goes and have, then what happens? It has started functioning, he says. So he says that, well, you should take the whole data and not the partially you present. Bhaved evam, had it been so, that all sentences, any sentence you utter, any sentence you construct, and even a sentence you utter, and it does not match the fact, had it been the case, then what you say would have been applied. But you are avoiding those sentences which match the facts. So it's a very tricky logic. Bhaved evam, yadi na kadachitapi yatharthe shabda pratyam upajanaye. Then it's okay, I avoid reading that original text. But it is not a fact that even if, again the idealist is telling, but is it not a fact that even if the so-called reliable person, you say the fault is not with the language but with the person. But is it not a fact that even if the so-called reliable person utters the sentence, there exist hundreds of elephants on the tip of finger, what a sentence conveys has nothing to do with the reality. Don't you see that it doesn't say anything? Then he says, no. A reliable, that means he wants to show that even a reliable, dependable person takes interest in uttering wrong sentences. He rules out the possibility. He says, no. A reliable person will never indulge in such utterances. That is the definition of a reliable person. A reliable person will definitely utter sentences with quote unquote, the same sentence that there exist hundreds of elephants on the top of the tip finger. This sentence, if a reliable person, authoritative person, and who knows the truth he utters, he will say, quote unquote, such a sentence you should avoid uttering. Like that he will refer. He will not indulge in creating such sentences for referring to the reality. That is pointing up to that. A reliable person will definitely utter sentences with a quote unquote when he will advise people not to indulge in such absurd utterances. Are you fed up with the Sanskrit? So I avoid Sanskrit. It's okay? Thus, the sentence of an apta will always refer to a fact. So what is required is that sentence, which is an utterance of a reliable person, has to match the reality. Over that again he intervenes, the idealist. Even if an apta utters such sentence, the doubt will continue, is not so. Doubt will remain. Whether it is due to the language that has happened, or due to language, or due to some defect in the speaker, that the sentence does not correspond to the fact. Jayanta says it is not true. Because a person wants to mislead, if that is his intention, he says, Nadyasti re palani santi. This can be uttered by a reliable person and also by an unreliable person. So unreliable person will always take recourse to such sentence. Is it necessary? Because it is not true. Because if a person wants to mislead, he can do so even without uttering a sentence through gesture. So if you want to deceive, if you want to mislead, if you want to cheat, there are many ways to do that. Why should he utter only sentence to cheat him? Even in the case of anucharita shabdopi purusho vipralambhaka hasta sangyadipayena janyatteva viplavam. He will say some ingita, some akar. He wants to deceive. Oh, where is the house of Professor Jha? You know, in villages what happens? The children take N Jha. The person is standing just in front of Professor Jha's house. But the children come to know that, well, perhaps this man does not know. He's a newcomer. So let us mislead him. Oh, you go this way, then right, and this, and that, and then they will find there is. And then he comes and says, oh my, I was asking only here, this question. And he said, so Gatakutyam Pravata, this is what a very, very famous joke in Sanskrit. Even in the case where a speaker misleads a person, saying that there are fruits on the bank of the river, the person so deceived scolds the person only. Also look at the behavior of language carefully, and not the sentence. Nadya tire palane santi. Even if the sentence does not take him to the fact, and he is disappointed, he does not scold the sentence. He scolds the utterer of the sentence. That this man misled me. That is what he said. He says, Hadik tena duratmana vipralabdhosmi. This is what they say, no? Amar Kopal. This man misled me. And if he really finds the fruits on the bank, the same person will say, Sadhu, sadhuna tena upadishtam. What a nice person he was. He directed me to the right place to get the fruits. Thus, mismatching of sentence meaning with the fact is due to the speaker of that sentence. Now, do you agree that the fault does not lie with the language, but with the speaker of the language? Then again, idealist says, you have kept on pointing out to the speaker's dosha. I want to know what dosha does he produce? What dosha have to do with the language? A speaker will simply, what is the function of a speaker? He articulates, he speaks out. So whether the sentence is for cheating or for helping, the function of a Purusha, speaker, is just to utter. A speaker will simply utter the sentence, whether he is an apta or anapta. What else? Any other function? After the utterance, it is the function of the language, and so once he utters, his function is over. So man is disconnected to the sentence. Now sentence is creating all problem, and so it is the fault of the sentence and not of the speaker of the sentence. Jayanta says, oh my God, even when the speaker is an apta, he does nothing more than uttering the sentence. Even if he is a reliable person, and he is uttering a sentence, his function is nothing more than articulating the sentence. Nadyastire palani santi, he says. The rest is done by the language, and the hearer goes to the bank of the river and gets fruits. Take that sentence, that the same sentence in one case, you say it has misled, and the same sentence in another case it does not. Then still you will continue to blame the language or the speaker of the language. Should you not reflect on this matching part of language? Therefore, listen, the truth is this. Now he gives his reflection. It's very beautiful. He says, language is just like a lamp. What is the nature of language? It is just like a lamp. As it reveals the case of correspondence with the reality, so also it reveals the case of mismatching with the reality. When I see the bottle here, I also see there is no bottle here. So both are done by my eyes. In the same way, the matching and non-matching. Okay? The difference, then what is the difference between lamp and language? Lamp reveals presence and absence, both. Bhava and abhava. Then what is the difference? The difference between lamp and language is this. This has that while a lamp reveals the object, without the knowledge of the lamp, carefully you see, for a lamp is put here, in the dark room, lamp is put here, object is revealed. Is it necessary for you to know lamp first? To know that bottle exists? But language requires that. That is why you say you are required to know the language. If you know the language, then only you will understand the meaning of the language. But the perception doesn't require that. Same thing happens to perception also. I see, I am not required to see my eyes. When I open, it reveals. I don't stand before a mirror to see my eyes and then I will say, oh, the bottle exists here. It is not necessary. Same thing with language. So, difference between a lamp and language is this, that lamp reveals objects without being known, just like your eyes. Whereas language will convey its meaning only when you know the relationship of language and the fact. So the difference between lamp and language is, however, this is while the lamp reveals the object without the knowledge of the lamp, language reveals an object only after the knowledge of the relationship between language and what language refers to. The matching or otherwise depends on the reliability, dependability or otherwise of the speaker of that language. Thus, that is the reason that the sentence Angulya Asti Yutastam Aste remains absurd even if it is uttered 100 times. The 100 times there will be mismatching. Because the relationship is not, either he does not know or he has constructed to deceive you. So unless you know the relationship between language and what language refers to, you cannot consider the case. Padarthanam ta samsargam asamikshya prajalpata. Bhaktureva pramadoyam. This is the fault of the person, the speaker. Na shabda atra aparadhyati. The fault does not lie with the language. The process of utterance is as follows. A speaker acquires knowledge of the truth. The whole theory is giving. How do we speak? How do we conceptualize our thought? Encode it in language and then utter it. You receive it, you start decoding it, and after decoding, it is expected by the speaker that it should reach the same reality which the knowledge of which I encoded in the sentence. That matching should happen. So a speaker acquires knowledge of the truth and wants to share that knowledge out of compassion. Therefore, I always say that, the speaking is a very compassionate job, compassionate activity. Because I may know, but I may prefer to remain silent. The very fact that I am sharing with you, you should give me you should grant me some positive attitude that because I am compassionate, maybe I am restless, that I have seen something, I want you also to see the same thing. So, Purusho hi swadarshanam. How does he speak? A person, whatever knowledge he acquires, swadarshanam, Shabdena, through language, Paresham Prakashayati. So he acquires knowledge, the speaker, encodes that knowledge into a form of a language that he is familiar with, and is kind enough to articulate that so that the hearer also sees the same fact, the knowledge of which he encoded in that language. If that language is veridical, if the knowledge is veridical, the sentence uttered by him will match the fact. And if that knowledge is erroneous or constructed, this sentence cannot match the reality. This should be the analysis. Tatra, tad darshanam chet dushtam, dushta shabda pratyaya. Adushtam chet, adushtaiva. Thus, a sentence of an apta corresponds to a fact, whereas that of an anapta does not. Reliability or dependability of a speaker is elaborated by Bhashyakara Vatsyayana. Again, a very beautiful concept. Who is a reliable speaker? Vatsyayana, in his Bhashya, he gives it. Under the sutra, Aptopadesha Shabda. Shabda Pramana is defined, and there it is said. It is Apta Khalu Sakshat Krita Dharma. Who is an apta? Who is a reliable, who is a dependable speaker? Who has knowledge of the truth? Sakshat Krita Dharma. Yathadishtasya, as he has seen, without distorting that. Yathadishtasya arthasya chikhyapashaya. Here compassion. Chikhyapashaya, with the intense desire to share, he is articulating that encoded thought into a sentence. So, aptah khalu sakshat krita dharma yathadishtasya arthasya chikhyapashaya prayuktaha upadeshta. One who knows the truth and who utters a sentence in order to share his knowledge of the truth out of compassion is called apta, or reliable, or dependable. Therefore, the view of the idealist that language is liar and it does not correspond to the fact is not tenable. Now the question is, up to this the summary I have given you between the idealist and the realist in the Amanjari, Jayanta Bhatta and his opponents. Now I reflect that why is it that the idealist cannot accept language as a dependable source of knowledge? Now the question is why such a position is taken by the idealists at all. As the reality is posited as Nirguna Brahman, let us say, by Shankaracharya, without any attribute, and held by Shankaracharya, or Swalakshana by Dharmakirti. Swalakshana is a mere particular only Vyakti, without any attribute, and not being the object of Shabda Avishaya, not being object of language. Kalpana Pur, Abhranta, Kalpana Pur, these are the qualifications given there. So mere particular, not being object of a language, Shabda Avishaya, as held by Dharmakirti in his Pramanavartika. The idealist cannot afford to accept reality as a referent of language because language can play its role only when the reality is a structured entity. Dharma dharmi bhavapanna. So in dharma dharmi bhavapanna structure of reality, three things appear. There is a locus, there is a located, and a relation between the three. Now, how can Shankaracharya accept such a reality as reality? because then his Advaita will go. Or how can Dharmakirti accept this? Then because the Pramana Dvaividyam Prameya Dvaividyat, that's all. So reality is only Swalakshana for the Buddhists. And that is why Pratyaksha is the only Pramana, dependable. Anumana is coming because to reveal the transactional world of Samanya Lakshana. So this is the point. That language, that word Mukha, grows to Maunam Vyakhyanam. So there is a story, the Vedantins class will tell you that if you cannot, that means the Brahman cannot be described. If it cannot be described, how can you give a lecture on Brahman? And then there is say that Gurus to Maunam Vyakhyanam. But what happens? All the Shishyas like me are sitting in front. Chinna Samshaya. You see, it's a debate between emotionality and rationality. You know? So, Shishya Chinna Samshaya. Gurus to Maunam Vyakhyanam, because he cannot do that. But the miracle is here, that the listeners' doubts are all evaporated. So, that is going to be the case. So, minimum requirement for function of a language is a reality having a structure of dharma, dharmi and sambandha. Brahman cannot be expressed. Brahman, the word Brahman cannot be an expressed meaning of any word. Or can it be a expressed meaning of Mahavakya? When Brahman is not an expressed meaning of a word, how can it be an expressed meaning of a sentence? So how can Mahavakya then directly express Brahman? Mahavakya, is it not a language? This is language. So Brahman cannot be expressed meaning of any word, nor can it be expressed meaning of Mahavakya. I am not telling this is the Ramaraya Kavi in Vedanta Sangraha that he is telling. Therefore he says that don't ask too much questions on this. It is this reason that Dharmakirti had to write. Now, you see how we have to see historically. Now, Dharmakirti writes an independent work on only one issue called relation. And what does he do? He denies it. He denies ontology of relation. Because once you deny the ontology of relation, the relator A and B, the relationship is gone. So dharma goes, remains, what remains is only mere particular, that is only Swalakshana, and there is no Samanya Lakshana. So that's the beautiful way of establishing idealism and denying realism. That's what Dharmakirti had done. I translated that work also into English. The book is under the name Philosophy of Relation. That is the name of the book. This is the reason that Dharmakirti had to write an independent treatise called Sambandha Pariksha in order to deny the status of reality of all relations. And he says, Amishraha Swayambhava. The entities are there without any relationships, no relations, only particulars. Amishraha Swayambhava. Then how they appear? Because unless I have to recognize this as a bottle, no? When I say bottle, what does bottle word mean? A structured entity called bottleness, a relation and the locus of that bottleness. This is what this bottle is. So, Amishraha Swayambhava, he says, they are not. Then how it appears like this? Tan Mishrayati Kalpana. So it is all mental construction. And it is projection of this by the mind. So idealist will explain by treating this as a projection of mind, The realist will accept this very much ontologically. All the three has ontology. The bottleness also is existent, the locus is existent, and the relationship between bottleness and locus is also existent. If a relation is accepted as real, one will be forced to accept dharma dharmi bhava apanna padartha as real, which will go against the worldview of Shankara and also Dharmakirti. It is this compulsion, I think, which prompts the idealists to stick to their position that language is artha sparsha shunya. This has been my comment on the reflections of Jayanta, and so beautifully he has presented it. So, friends, I once again thank the society, its president and kind secretary, and all who are responsible for giving this honor to me to come here and deliver a very, very, what should I say, historical, personal memory. And I'm really very thankful to all you for this patient hearing. I could have, it is just a summary of the text. I will simply advise you, if you find time sometimes, you go and read the original conversation between the idealist and realist in Hamilton. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for this enlightening lecture. I think any question? Is there any question? Okay. I don't know whether I'm in real sincere or not. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you again. So I request now Professor Shapan Kumar Pramanik to deliver the presidential address.
Respectful Prof. N Jha, who is the celebrated speaker of this afternoon's Rajendra Lal Mitra lectureship, which we have been holding annually for the last several years, since 2017. Dr. S.B. Chakraborty, General Secretary of Asiatic Society, Dr. Sujit Das, Treasurer, other honorable council members who are present here, and the learned audience. We have been privileged this afternoon by two counts. One is holding the lectureship in the name of Rajendra Lal Mitra, who, as the General Secretary in his initial welcome address has pointed out, was associated with the Asiatic Society for a long time, which ultimately culminated in his position of Presidency of Asiatic Society in the year 1885. And we in the Asiatic Society have been trying to honor him by various ways. You know, this building has been dedicated to Dr. Rajendra Lal Mitra. We have Rajendra Lal Mitra Scholarship, and every year there is the scholarly endeavors on the part of the research scholars, and we have this annual lectureship also. This is the first reason why we should feel honored. And secondly, the presence of Prof. N Jha. About a decade back, I don't remember the exact year, Prof. Jha, who is also a life member of the Asiatic Society, used to come here along with Mrs. Jha to organize workshop on a regular basis.
Since 2000.
Yes.
2000.
And dozens and dozens of Sanskrit lovers here in Bengal have been privileged by that type of workshop. We are sorry that we could not organize that for the last several years. I think we should take it seriously that the gap should be covered now and the workshop should again be started with the initiative of Asiatic Society, and particularly because Prof. N Jha is still amongst us, willing and able to meet us. I don't have much to say on the topic of this afternoon's deliberation. Professor Jha has dealt elaborately on the issue of the complex relationship between language and reality, the various nuances of this phenomenon as it has been interpreted by Jayanta Bhatta, a 9th century scholar, Kashmir logician, whose forefathers had migrated to Kashmir from Bengal. That's another reason why we should feel elated about this phenomenon. And as I was saying, the complex nuances of the relation between language and reality, and the various ways in which this has been interpreted by different scholars, has given rise to several schools of thought in the relevant literature. And between language and reality, there are other areas as well, namely the person, the speaker, his consciousness, the way in which this consciousness is interpreted by the person. Professor Jha was giving the example of Lojjute Shortpoporo. Now, when I am recognizing the reality, I am at the same time interpreting it. It's a matter of consciousness. And how this consciousness has been interpreted by various persons, various schools of thought, is a matter of lively discussion in philosophy. So friends, as scholars in Sanskrit literature, I think you have been immensely benefited by this lecture this afternoon. And what we can request Professor Jha is to hand over to us a written, it has already been done. So Asiatic Society has the program of publishing these annual lectures or micro lectures. I mean, collecting several such lectures together, 4, 5, 6 such lectures, and publishing one volume out of that. I think that would be immensely beneficial for those who are interested in this area. With this, on behalf of the Asiatic Society, I would again express my thanks, my gratitude to Professor Jha for giving this type of scholarly lecture this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Now I request Professor Sujit Kumar Das, Treasurer of the Asiatic Society, to deliver vote of thanks.
Everybody, respected President Professor Shobhan Kumar Brahmani, respected Secretary Dr. S.P. Chakraborty, today's speakers Dr. N Jha, and my fellow colleagues who are present here in today's Rajendra Lal Metro annual lecture. We are just at the close of the program. So long we were engrossed by the lecture of the speaker, today's speaker, Dr. N Jha, who was speaking about language and reality, reflections of Jayanta Bhatta, the 9th century Kashmiri logician. So that was definitely, particularly the Sanskrit persons who are interested in that will be benefited. We are also engrossed with that, and I must say thanks to Sir N Jha for his endeavor to be here and say our enlightened us in this subject. With this, I also thanks to you all present here with us to make this program a successful one. I must say thanks to our colleagues, our employees who remain present to make it successful. And finally, you all present here, I thanks to you, everybody, for being with us. Thank you very much.